Oh, okay. Oops. Just got off recording a session with Dave Palumbo, so apparently that airs next week. Anyway, as you can see, I've got a bit of sunburn on my face, looking rather red. Anyway, I'm going to talk about form. This came up, really, I've seen a couple of posts about this just recently, and I thought it was definitely a worthy topic. Now, we all get the form police, and to a degree I'm probably a little bit of a form Nazi myself. And we criticise people for poor form on this, poor form on that. And then you get the counter argument that you don't need to go full range. Look at Branch Warren, look at this, look at that, look at the other. Now let's go one thing straight, alright? We don't know, well, I definitely don't know, and I'm pretty sure most people talking about it don't know, how Branch feels when he's doing a movement with those fast, jerky, partial reps. We also don't know, because I've never seen a full workout of Branch Warren's, if he does every set in that style. He may well do. I honestly don't know. But the point is, at that level of development and that level of experience, your connection with your muscles will be very astute. And chances are that he's getting a great deal of feedback, a great deal of field, and therefore a great deal of directional load onto the target muscle that he's trying to work with the movement he's doing. For the mass majority of people, we don't have that. We don't have the experience, or we're just not that in tune with our bodies. So therefore, form is important, and you should make the movement over the greatest range possible. That's safe, obviously. You know, there is such a thing as going too deep in a squat, especially if your arse starts to round underneath you. The same with the leg press. You go too deep and your arse starts to lift up too much. Again, it's too deep. So it needs to be what's viable within your biomechanical ability. But the greater the range, the more controlled the rep, the more fibre stimulation, the more damage to more fibres done, and therefore the greater responding growth. It is that fucking simple. You want to achieve the maximum stimulus of muscle tissue as possible, and that's going to be achieved over the greatest fucking range. You know, a short range will create muscle shortening. No, your muscle doesn't get short because it's attached to one end to the other, but the effective range of flexible tissue gets shorter, and it tightens up at either end. So those fibres don't get worked, they become static, which results in only half of the muscle fibre available being worked, and therefore half the growth. Now, if you do things in a controlled manner, you can focus on the target muscle, i.e. the muscle you want to work. If you do things in an explosive manner, then you're going to struggle because you're actually focused on moving weight. You're not focusing on stimulating the muscle. Now, if you want to be a powerlifter, or a strongman for that matter, then that's what you want to focus on, moving the weight. But if you want to be a bodybuilder, then you should be focusing on stimulating the muscle. If you can't feel it, then there may be a chance it's not as effective as you think. As you get more advanced, you'll find that you can do cheat reps. You can do swinging movements because you can still focus on the target muscle. You can still feel it where you want it to go. And therefore you still load the muscle with that weight correctly, and therefore you still benefit from stimulus. But the amount of people, you know, that bench press and then moan the shoulders are hurting, or their arms are hurting, or their elbows are hurting, well, your chest should be hurting, your pecs should be hurting. So if they're not hurting, then you're not hitting the target muscle. You're definitely not hitting it as effectively as you could do, and you're missing out on the opportunity for stimulus of growth. If you do things controlled, you have time to focus on the movement, and therefore you have a greater connection with your muscle from your mind, and therefore you'll have a greater connection with the load to the muscle. As a bodybuilder, you should be looking at ways to increase the muscular stimulation and make it harder. As a powerlifter, you're looking at ways to make it easier. Now, a powerlifter will effectively load his skeletal frame. He wants to put as much load as possible through his skeleton. bodybuilder wants to put as much load as possible through their muscles. Therefore, you get increased growth with less weight. Less weight, less wear and tear, less risk of injuries, less damage to joints and tendons. It's great moving big weights. I love moving big weights. But they're not really conducive to growth unless they are stimulating the muscle you are trying to hit. So, and this isn't, I think you'll find with this is a natural linear progression. You start out going over a full range, nice and controlled, squeeze, stretch, with as much weight as possible in good form. As you get more experienced, you might be able to do a cheat set. As you get more experienced, you might find that you can focus on that muscle, boom, immediately. First rep, first set, you're feeling it, you know where you want it to be. And then you can probably get away with all sorts of different styles and sloppiness and extra heavy weight. But you need to always return back to the basic, simple, controlled form. If you're struggling with a muscle group, chances are your form's shit. And you just need to take time and focus and control. So, there is room for everything. But, I suppose one real good way of explaining this is, about a year ago now, maybe even a year and a half ago, I trained a guy, and he was British family. In fact, I think he'd actually won a British championship. I think it was NABBA, but I can't be certain. And he came to me to train back. And the kid, said he trained hard, and generally did train hard. But what I made him do in that back workout was I made him focus on the muscle. Focus on activating the back. Focus on activating the lats and everything else that was going on in there. And you know what he said to me at the end of the workout? He said, I'm knackered. He said, but it's different. He said, my back is absolutely fried. He said, but I don't feel completely and totally fucked, like I normally do when I train back. And I explained to him, because when he normally trains back, he uses so much more of the rest of his physique, his hip drive, his legs, his arms, everything else, that he gets an overall drain and fatigue. But, because of the way he trained when I trained with him, he'd focused everything and the load and everything onto his back muscles. So he'd absolutely destroyed his back. His back was ready for growth. But he hadn't wasted energy on the other areas of his body. That meant two things. He had a faster recovery, because his body was only dealing with his back. He wasn't looking at dealing with everything else that was knackered as well. And it was more targeted, which meant over time, he would be able to increase the focus and therefore increase the load and energy expended on that one body part. Where before, he was getting overall fatigue and he was fucked and wasn't fit for anything. And then that carried into the next day, because his overall fatigue and his overall central nervous system fatigue carried into his workout the next day, which meant that workout wasn't quite as good as it could have been. While this way, he went into the next day and his CNS was fresh, because he hasn't fatigued his overall body. Because he was using exercises and even doing stuff like compounds, like deadlift, he was doing them in such a way that they focused the load on the back. And this is what I'm on about. You need to focus on exercising the muscle and not on exercising the exercise. The goal as a bodybuilder is not to do 10 reps with that weight on dumbbell chest press. The goal as a bodybuilder is to fatigue the chest. Now, it might be that 10 reps on that weight does the job. It might be that it's 8 reps with a different weight. It might be that it's 12 reps with a different weight. The point is that the exercise and the weights are the tools used to fatigue the muscle. The end target is fatiguing the muscle. The end target is not doing 10 reps with that weight. So, there you go. Is form important? Yes. Is strict form necessary throughout? No. But you have to be able to control it. And you have to be able to honestly say to yourself, I am getting stimulation from those exercises I'm doing in that way. If you're not, then what's the point of doing them? Okay, I'm done for this week. I'm a bit behind this week, so I will get the videos up. I will put an IGF LR3 DES video up probably tomorrow, and I'll look at doing some more on the public speaking at the end of the week. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into segments, and I'm just going to talk about various sections and see what you guys think of those individual stories and if they're any good. So take care, and I'll speak to you soon.